Welcome to SNSN's Streaming Sports and News Network. And this evening's debate between the two candidates for the office of First Selectman for the town of Griswold, Republican primary. We're very grateful to both incumbent First Selectman Dana Bennett and endorsed Republican candidate Wayne Malin for being here today and being willing to answer our questions and give us a little taste of their vision for the town of Griswold. Um, just describing the format of this debate tonight, we will open with an opening statement by each candidate. We've tossed a coin, and the winner of that coin toss will go first. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to present an opening statement outlining their background and what they believe they bring to this office. Um, that statement will be followed by a series of questions, and each candidate will take turns going first, answering the questions. At the end of each question, the first candidate will respond and have 3 minutes to respond. The second candidate will have 3 minutes to respond, and each candidate may rebut for 1 minute following the statements, um, but that's optional. Um, We'll follow the questions by a closing statement, which each of the candidates has prepared. Um, and I should point out that for those of us watching or listening the debate online, you are welcome to comment, but your comments will not be seen or acknowledged by either the candidates or the moderator. And I should introduce myself. I'm the moderator. My name is Janice Steinhagen. I'm a former reporter for Current Community who covered the town of Griswold until I retired in 2019. So if we are ready to get started, Dana Bennett, our incumbent first selectman, won the coin toss. And so we'll hear from her first for her opening statement.
Thank you. I'd like to say thank you to Mike and thank you to Janice Steinhagen for moderating, to Megan we have here as a timekeeper, and thank you to my opponent, Wayne. So just to introduce myself, many of you may not know, I did not start out in politics in my career. I worked for a long time in nonprofit organizations designing services for individuals with disabilities. I was specialized as an early childhood interventionist. I worked in the background of government, designing services for the state of Montana for people with disabilities. I wrote state statutes. I trained people all over the state on how to implement those services. For my education, I have a bachelor's degree in human services with concentrations in business administration, organizational communication, and management. My master's degree is in conflict resolution with an emphasis on public policy. My resume is on my Facebook page. In 2012, my husband and I were in South Carolina when he worked for EB. We were down there for several years, and we were down there during the presidential primary. During that time, I wasn't working, so I'd go and I'd attend a lot of the stump speeches that the Republicans were giving that were running for president. I attended Mike Huckabee's show in Charleston, South Carolina, and Newt Gingrich happened to be doing a rally on the USS Yorktown, and they needed volunteers. So I called, I said, "Do you need volunteers this evening?" My husband and I went over, and we noticed that the volunteers were not really doing much. So because I like to organize, I grabbed some brochures. I went to the front of the line. I started ushering people into the building and toward the ship where he was having his rally. Before I knew it, out of a black SUV that came forward, Newt Gingrich stepped out. He stopped and handed his appetizer plate to his aide when he saw me, and he came and shook my hand and said, "Thank you for being here to volunteer." And he didn't acknowledge any of the other people that had come over to volunteer. And it was at that time I thought, well, this might be my new career. Now that I've moved to Connecticut, now that I'm in South Carolina, and I'll be going back to Connecticut. So when I came back here in 2016, I joined the RTC. I became the chair 2 years later. I really found that I loved getting people elected, and my goal was to get candidates elected to committees for the town. I joined a couple of committees myself. I ran for First Selectman in 2019, but I didn't win. After that, I started going to every board and commission and committee meeting that I possibly could. Over 2 years' time, I became really familiar with what happened in town. Before long, I realized somebody had mentioned to me that the contract for the senior center had been signed for $1 million over what the town had approved and over what we had money for. So the next day I attended a senior center building committee and indeed found out that that was what had happened. I went home that night. I emailed the Board of Finance about the issue. The Board of Finance members were unaware of it. They started meeting repeatedly to try and resolve the problem. I was the one who took out my phone and streamed live every one of those Board of Finance meetings during that time. I have to say the senior center that we have now is outstanding. It's a beautiful building. They provide very great services to the seniors in town. If you have not been there, I would say please go because you will really see what they have to offer. But the voters elected me at that time because they knew I'd be watching out for their tax dollars. They knew I was a watchdog. Right now, my job as the first selectman is to hold people and processes accountable. I'm doing that for the taxpayers. I love this job. I love the job as first selectman. It's kind of the culmination of all of the things I've done, all of the experience I've had. And I really hope to be reelected to do this for another term at least, because I have some things that I would like to continue. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Malin, you're welcome to give your opening statement.
Okay, so who am I? So I've lived in Griswold now for 35 years. I've raised 2 children. I have 2 grandchildren here, so I'm really invested in the town of Griswold. I was a Navy veteran for 6 years. Was in the Navy nuclear program, which got me the training I needed to get the career that I am pretty soon going to retire from here in a couple months. Coached Little League here when my son was going through, and also while at Millstone, I've been involved in some fundraisers and organized a golf tournament that supports the employees at Millstone in need. I've also been involved in Safe Futures, raising money for Christmas for families there to have a nice Christmas every year. I did that for over 20 years. Why am I running? It's an opportunity since I'm retiring in a couple months. It gives me an opportunity to get back to the town. I'm not a politician, never ran for office before. So it's been a learning experience. I've done a lot of walking around the last couple of weeks, introducing myself to a lot of the residents and seeing what they would like to see done in the town. Trying to get to the root cause of the issues about the tax base is their biggest concern. I think, the focus right now is that we're really focused on residential and we really need to get some commercial into the town. And I've got a lot of experience running with me and Martin McKinney, who's got business and he's got a lot of business experience. And my goals are to work with teamwork with the town, the borough, the school system, and bring them all together, have all the department heads together, see what's going on, get us working like a team, and move forward with one vision in mind. And what I've been hearing from the taxpayers out there is it's getting too expensive to live here. We need to do something about it. And my big focus is going to be economic development, getting businesses in here. I don't think we've been doing a very good job of that lately. And develop trust. We need to get some trust into the town, trust from businesses, bring that back into the town. And then if we do that, then that'll help with the tax base. And that'll relieve some of the pressures that the taxpayers are seeing. We're all taxpayers in this town, so we're all seeing it. Also interested in making sure we have a good public safety program.
Right in here, yeah.
Right in there? Okay, thanks,
Yes,
Mike.
You want to just look right at your viewer.
Okay, thanks.
Both of you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I know we'd like to get another state trooper in town. That's going to cost some money, so we need to get some revenue in the town there. And trust. And trust begins with being able to communicate back to the town, tell them what's going on, whether it's good news or bad news. Keep the Griswold page up to date and get back to people who have questions. And get back to them constantly. And once again, I'd like to thank my fellow Republican Town Committee for endorsing myself and Mr. Martin McKinney and give us an opportunity to run in this important primary race.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malin. And you will be the first to respond to the first question.
Okay.
Economic development has been much on the minds of many local residents of late. The past few years have seen large-scale commercial developments take hold in neighboring towns, thereby reducing the tax burden on the residents of those towns. What kinds of commercial and industrial development do you envision for Griswold, and what strategies do you propose to encourage them?
I expect to work with all the committee heads, the chairman, especially planning and zoning, and the town planner, try to make the town hall a lot more welcoming for businesses. I think we've had a couple swings and misses lately with the data center. We also had another vendor looking at some buildings in town, and I don't think we followed up with them to keep their interests. So they moved on. If you look at what Killingly's doing with the data center up there, I believe they're bringing in $5.5 million of revenue once that gets started. For 30 years, that's $165 million. That's quite a chunk of change. That could fix a lot of things like roads, improve public safety in the town. And I believe that we should have, I don't know what the problem was with that, and maybe Dana can relate to that, but there was nothing put out what happened with that, and there was no communication. So also we need to promote ourselves better. We need to create videos. We need to, and I plan on working with the school. They got a great AV department over there that could produce such a video, and that would be a good way for them to learn and be part of the Griswold movement to bring commercial business in the town. That's my ideas about it. Get everybody working with one vision as a team and one focus.
All right, thank you, Mr. Malin. Ms. Bennett, could you please respond to that question?
Sure, I'd love to. One of the things that has happened recently is the water and sewer infrastructure. That has been an ongoing desire for the town since about 1998. Jewett City Department of Public Utilities signed an intermunicipal agreement with the Griswold Water Pollution Control Authority. At that time, the plan was, and it did happen, that the water pollution or the wastewater treatment plant was upgraded. It was upgraded so that we could get development, that we could work towards that end. This was 20 years ago. In 2019, people remember that we went to vote. That was one of the items that we voted on during the referendum. We voted on the gas line for the school, we voted on the senior center, and we voted on the infrastructure for the water and sewer. The senior center took priority for a while. When I got in, within 1 week of me getting into office, I had a meeting with the engineers with the water and sewer, and we talked about how we needed to get going on that. They finished the design of the sewer. They have now finished the design of the water. We are out to bid. Next week, we actually will have the engineers there in the town hall available for contractors that are possibly wanting to come in and gather more information about it. The bids are due October 2nd. We're getting alternative bids so that we can do the kinds of things that we need to with the money that we have. We're not sure, what the prices will be now because it's been a long time. So as far as economic development, that was one of the main goals for this town, to get economic development in. I have worked with the Economic Development Committee and talked to the Economic Development Director about whether or not I needed to be the contact person. We talked about this about a year ago, if I needed to be the contact person for EDC. He wanted to maintain that. We agreed to do that at this time. The Economic Development Commission, I think, has to change a little bit so that we can get some more development in here. We've added a new person who's come up with about 3 different things that he would like to pursue. I have talked to EDC about where they're going with some of their things. They had the Economic Development Summit, which occurred about 6 weeks ago up at Gear Tree Farm. we sent out a list from my office, and I went back to the chair and said, I think we need to add more people to this summit. The list only includes about 50 people that are currently in business. He didn't want to do that. I wanted to advertise on Facebook. We didn't do that. There are some things we need to do. We need to look at how we're advertising. We need to look at how we are going out to meet these people. And I have a roundtable that I started about 4 months ago with economic development, with planning and zoning, inland wetlands, the blight officer, myself, and the town planner, so that we can work together on this. So that committee is already going. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bennett. Mr. Malin, did you want to make a response to?
Yes, I do. I'd also like to add, maybe Dana can answer this on her rebuttal, is the water and sewer, I believe with the data center, there's a deal there that they would have paid to have all that done if they had finished their project here. And that would have saved the town millions of dollars. I'd like to hear what Dana had to say with it. I also like to hear, why we never got a good answer on whatever happened to that project.
Okay, I'm happy to answer that. The data centers, when they signed host agreements, and one was signed by my predecessor, one was signed by me, we have a non-disclosure agreement that does not discuss what we have in that agreement. In that agreement, we did have the water tower at 1.5 million when they thought it was going to be that amount. They also needed the electricity. By the time we realized the water tower would be 4 million, they needed to use Eversource for electricity. That the cost became astronomical for them. They're going to places where they can get electricity for a lower amount. They had options for several different places where they could go. They had, I think, Killingly, Waterbury, Groton, Griswold, Basra. Now they're going to Millstone because Millstone already has the energy that they can provide to the data centers. So we just didn't have the facilities. Will they come back? I don't know at this point. Their agreement with the landowner expired. Their agreement with us expired, both of those in January. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. And Ms. Bennett, you will be the first to respond to the next question. Several large-scale housing developments have sprung up in Griswold in recent years, but housing costs are taking a bigger than ever bite out of household budgets. What are your plans for assuring affordable housing within the town?
Thank you. One of the projects that we have coming that will be the first one to arrive after the water and sewer is Heritage River Development. We actually are having a presentation on Thursday night. You can look at my Facebook page, look at the town Facebook page and the website, and we will announce that Zoom meeting. And if you would like to register, please email the first selectman's office and we can get you registered to observe that meeting. It will also be recorded. Heritage River is bringing a mixed-use development to town. They are also bringing a YMCA. Part of what they will be bringing is senior living for 55 and above, assisted living, independent living, and 160 units of affordable housing and market rate housing. So there will be, it's not home ownership, but it's housing that's available. We are right in the middle of Electric Boat in Groton and New London and Electric Boat in Quonset. And this provides housing to some of those people that may be starting out here and maybe wanting to look for a home. So once we get those developers, we also have at Plastic Wire and Cable, developers that have come to town that have started working on that property. The contamination was removed in the buildings. They have brought in material that we have had inland wetlands look at to make sure that that material is tested for contamination, and it has been fine. The plan that they had initially for that was to build tiny houses and then have some commercial properties out front. I think they're going away from tiny houses. They're going to look at what housing can be provided there. I don't have a plan from them yet. They will be taking that to the town planner and to planning and zoning. People are well aware of the affordable housing needs here. And I think that all of our developers are moving in that direction right now.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Bennett. Mr. Malin, could you please respond to that question?
Affordable housing is very good to have for the town. However, I truly believe that that's not going to solve the tax base issue. I truly believe that we need to have more commercial business here. We can put, some of these locations are prime real estate for commercial business. We've got some low-income housing and senior housing around town. I would like to see that relocated. Keep, look what Plainfield and Lisbon's been doing. They've been keeping their businesses along the 395 corridor, and that doesn't impact the rest of the town. So the rest of the town can maintain the small town feel. I understand what the plan is. I was at the presentation for phase 2 for the Heritage River Valley, and it's a nice plan, but it's big picture and to help out the taxpayers. I don't believe that that's the right thing to do at this time. There's other places that we could put that low income housing.
All right, thank you, Mr. Malin. Ms. Bennett, would you like to respond to his
Yes, I
response?
would. And I agree with Mr. Malin that we need to have commercial development. And I think part of what we need to address is also reaching out to our small businesses. And what do they need? What do the current small businesses need for commercial development and for growth? That Heritage River Village was already approved by Planning and Zoning. Your running mate is on Planning and Zoning. I have had other members from Planning and Zoning who have talked to me about their concerns about the mixed use development and that we are filling some of our commercial development with housing. I agree with that. I think we need to use those areas to have development that will offset our tax base. That is not up to me. That is up to Planning and Zoning. And they have rewritten their regulations to include that and to better define mixed use development so that we can utilize those properties for commercial development.
Thank you so much, Ms.
Thank you.
Bennett. Mr. Malin, you have a minute to respond if you wish.
No, I'm good.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Malin, you will respond next to the third question. What do you consider to be the town's best assets? And how do you foresee using your skill set to enhance the quality of life for town residents?
I think our best town asset is our school system. It's the first thing that anybody that's moving into town asks about. And I've had many people that I've worked with and that I've talked to that live in other towns say, oh, you got a great school system there. You got all your schools located in one spot. I don't have to run all over town and go pick up my kid from one end of the town to the other. And then, and if you haven't been down there and seen the field and what that's going to bring in this year for tuition students, it's amazing. What was the rest of the question there, Janice?
How do you foresee using your skill set to enhance the quality of life for town residents?
Well, I've got experience managing all kinds of different people, mostly at Millstone Power Station nuclear power plants. People are people. And the biggest thing that I've learned in my experience is teamwork. You can't get anything done without teamwork and working with other departments. And you got to have that. And what I've seen and with what's happened with the borough, leaving the town hall, and I'm not going to get into why that happened, but I have met with the warden and the Burgess, and I've talked to them, and we've talked about our vision of how the town and the borough is going to work together and utilize resources and services together, and how we can minimize that impact to the borough residents, and how it can best benefit both the town and the borough. Develop a good relationship with the school, because that's a big part of it, and that they have our most important resource, our kids, and that's our future. So I think my skill set as far as working with other people, and I'm pretty straightforward and pretty honest, and I always get back to people, where they may not like what I hear sometimes, but I'm going to tell them, the truth. So that's my answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malin. Ms. Bennett, could you please respond to that question?
I would say that our greatest assets are the people that we have in town, the school, the senior center, the youth center, I think, and our small businesses. We have a lot of really great things that are happening in Griswold, but I think people are somewhat concerned about their taxes going up and having to keep maintaining the taxes that are on the back of the residents. I'd like to respond to some of the comments. I think the field is one of our greatest assets. That was something that is going to be paid for by our taxpayers. It will be bonded. There were some issues with how we were going to go forward with the school. When I spoke with the bond attorney, one of the things that she mentioned is it doesn't go into the school building committee. So we set up a multi-purpose, or I'm sorry, a multi-use field committee. I think that that field has turned out to be a wonderful asset, like the senior center. I think the best people that we have in our town are the teachers, the schools, the youth center, and we need to keep moving toward addressing what types of things we need to work on to move forward. I also think the borough is one of our assets. I think the borough has some great and talented people on it. I know that that has become a question that people have asked. Why did I even recommend that we talk about merging with the borough? I want to address that because I think we are stronger together. I think that we could potentially, and I know it's been brought up before, have a 5-person board of selectmen. We don't have anybody from the borough on the board of selectmen. And again, there are very talented people. I think we could go in a different direction. One of the things that we talked about in 2011 was the Main Street downtown streetscape plan, which was going to help businesses do the facades on the buildings. We have not done that. Is there a way that we can work together to do that? You know, people will talk about how I brought up conflict in certain things, but you cannot avoid the conflict sometimes to make things better. I'm sure that many people have been in a long-term relationship or a marriage where under the surface there's kind of this thing you're not talking about and it's a conflict and one person knows it's a conflict and then you bring it up and people are mad about it. I think that this is a conversation that we still need to have because we are a community of a town and a borough, and we need to address how do we work together. So I think I'll just end it right there right now.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bennett. Mr. Malin, did you want to take a minute to respond?
Yes, like to talk a little bit more about the borough because I did have discussions with the warden and the Burgess, and Dana talked about conflict. I think there's a little bit more than that, but I think you don't need to have conflict to work together. You just need to have discussions. You need to discuss plans. You need to invest in that. You need to have more meetings. You just can't spring a surprise on somebody and expect them to accept it. That's all I got to say to that.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Bennett, did you want to take a minute to respond?
I would like to respond. The issue is not necessarily with the borough. The issue is that in 1998, the town took over the borough in a bankruptcy. Since 1998, for 25 years, Griswold taxpayers have been supporting a second municipality. I'm not saying that's wrong. I don't know if Griswold taxpayers are realizing that their taxes are supporting the borough being in the town hall. The borough has chosen to move out. We had a discussion about that. It didn't become fruitful. It didn't turn out to be something where we could work together at that point in time. But the town has provided for 25 years the services the borough used to have: planning and zoning, parks and recreation, town planning, the assessor's department, the bus service. We pay for the fire departments, except for the building that Jewett City Fire Department is in. I'm bringing that out because I think it's a conversation that needs to continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bennett. Okay, the next question, you will answer the next question first. The town's government structure has long consisted of a 3-member select board. What are your thoughts on altering that structure from 3 members to 5, or from a select board to a town manager form of government?
And as I mentioned before, I do think a 5-person board of selectmen would encompass things more. I think when we have talked about it, it needs to include all areas of town. Some of our areas of town are quite different. You know, if you look at people that live on the pond, that community is maybe different than the community that's living downtown in the borough, than the community that's living in other suburbs in the town. I think a 5-person board would serve us well. We'd have a lot of different people that could make decisions that would bring a lot of talents to that board. And I think that a town manager form of government would be something that we need to start talking about. We have 11,500 people in town. There is a lot happening in town hall. I have at least 2 pages of something I quickly typed out on all the responsibilities that take place in the first selectman's office. It is a job that needs to be done by a professional that has some management, that has some organizational management skills, that has run organizations. I think there needs to be consistency from year to year. I think a town manager would bring that to town. The drawback is that town manager may not live in town and may not be as invested in Griswold as somebody else would that's elected to office. So I'm open to talking about those, and I think it need to include the borough and the town both. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malin. Could you please address the same question?
Yes, I'm all for expanding the Board of Selectmen, as Dana stated, to 5, even to 7, to get more of a different point of view for 7 people and get more people involved in the discussions and decisions of the town. Also, have a couple representatives from the borough and also the town manager. We could talk about that, but I think the first thing we need to do is go to 5 or 7 board of selectmen and start talking about that. I understand there's a lot on the first selectman's plate that they have to do. That would help alleviate a lot of the responsibilities and delegate a lot of those so that we can focus on what the most important thing is, and that is working for the boss, and the boss is the town people. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Malin. Ms. Bennett, would you like to respond to
I
that?
would like to respond. I agree that the boss are the taxpayers, that people that are paying taxes in town, that's who we work for, and we work for them every day. And this position is difficult. You have to make decisions that not everyone agrees with. The town manager, I think we need to look at. I also have spoken with both the town clerk and the tax collector on the fact that those should be possibly positions that are hired and not elected. Because if we lose the valuable people that we have in there right now, and we have to go out and elect a new tax collector and a new town clerk, we don't necessarily have people in town that might want to take on those positions. Those are very important positions to the town. So I think a whole look at the structure is a valuable thing to do. And it's one of the things I do daily in work, or at least weekly, just how are things operating in town and are there changes to be made, which led me to the roundtable that we started.
All right, thank you very much. And Mr. Malin, did you want to make a
Yes,
1-minute
I'll
response to that?
take a minute here. So everything that we're talking about here is also going to be more of a tax burden on the people. So we need to, before we do that, we got to understand how we're going to pay for all that. And the way to pay for all that is economic development, getting commercial business in. Residential can help a little bit, but not enough. In order to do all these improvements that we're talking about, we really need to focus on the economic development, get the water and sewer done, look at the parcels of property that we have, and open up the town to be a welcoming community for business.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Malin. You will be the first to respond to the next question. The Borough of Jewett City is moving its offices out of Griswold Town Hall. Does this signal a rift between the borough and the town? And how do you perceive the relationship between the two entities going forward?
Thank you. So I was lucky enough to have a conversation with Mr. Sharkey and Mrs. Swerter and Saturday, and it was unfortunate. And I believe they are moved out of the town now. And I was in the new building talking to them and trying to find out what we can do to mend the relationship between the town and the borough. I believe there is a rift, there is a separation that needs to be reconciled. Um, and I've started to do that and have conversations with them. I think it started out well. I think we have a good understanding where I'm going and what my vision is, and to work with them closely, get involved with their committee meetings, and move from there. And then also other relationships, along with the school, along with some of the relationships in the town hall as a whole.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Bennett, could you please respond?
Yes, I do think that there has been a rift. And I would like to point out that as a member of the RTC, I was involved with Tim Sharkey's first election. He ran against Al Gear the first time. He did not win that time, but he was a Republican at that time. We had so much success with his campaign. It was another RTC member and myself that we ended up more than doubling the people that came to vote. So of course I respect Tim Sharkey. I helped him run for office the first time. And we had 180 voters come in for the borough. It's always been about 80. And I do believe that the town actually had to print the ballots at that time. There were so many voters because we had such a solid campaign. Again, I think that it was a little clunky the way we approached that with the borough. That does not mean that we shouldn't talk about those things. There are boroughs all over the state. There's, I think, 8 or 9 of them. They have their own buildings. They don't reside in a town building. So I'm hoping that going forward, this might energize the borough. We might be able to get back on track and do some things that will help grow the town. I am confident in the fact that we can reestablish relationships. But one of the things I want to say, again, about conflict resolution, we have to not focus on the people and what the people have done and what people have created to have these concerns with one another. We have to focus on the issues. That's one of the things that you have to be able to sit down and do with people and put aside the differences, put aside the fact that you're angry, not hold on to it for the rest of your life or pass it on to your children or grandchildren or whatever. It has to be dealt with face to face, and we need to come together and look at what are the issues. And I think we can come to some agreement on how we can share services. We don't have state troopers that are out in the town. That's been an issue with people speeding on the roads. How do we work with the borough to establish another trooper for the town? How do we work with the borough to be involved with all the other departments that the town serves the borough for the borough? We have 2 great fire departments. One is in Jewett City, one's out in Griswold. Those fire departments work together. There are a lot of things that we can do to mend these fences. I think it will take some time to sit down and visit, but I think that for the town as a whole, I am still the right person to do this because I've started working with so many people in town and so much of the economic development and so many things that we need to go forward. It takes months to understand what this job is about. And I don't want to lose ground by having somebody go in that doesn't have that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bennett. Mr. Malin, did you want to respond to
Yes, I'd like to talk about what we have at Millstone. We talk about conflict. We talk about crucial conversations, and that means conversations that you're going to have somebody that you need to work through differences of opinion and come to an agreement, a compromise. And you got to be able to have patience, talk to these people. No twisting of arms or anything like that. But I think, I've started off going across the aisle, talking to Democrats, talking to unaffiliated, talking to independents. I'm not here to, turn this into a Democrat Republican thing or anything like that. I want to work with people, get us focused on what the town really needs. And what I've heard from the townspeople as I've been walking around door to door for the last couple of weeks, it's all about the infrastructure and the economic development and helping with the taxes, and to get that fixed, that'll resolve a lot of the problems in this town.
that? Thank you very much, Mr. Malin. Ms. Bennett, did you want to give a 1-minute response?
I would say that I have also heard that it's about economic development. It's about the infrastructure. It's about getting the taxes lowered. I have had very positive responses from many people when I go to the doors. I think that a lot of people see the value in having somebody that continues in this position who can deal with this economic development. We are on a roll. We have it out to bid for the infrastructure. I've been working with Heritage River for a long time. Like I said, we're doing a presentation together on Thursday night. And I think in order to keep the momentum, we have to have the right person running the town and moving it forward. Thank you.
very much. Ms. Bennett, you will respond first to the next question. Many people who live in Griswold are drawn here by the rural environment and the natural beauty of local state parks and forests. How do you plan to balance the need to expand the tax base with preserving the quality of life that drew so many voters to the town?
Well, one of the things that has already happened before I came into office, and that was the planning and zoning that went into zoning some of the properties that we have that are for commercial development. We have properties out on 201. We have properties out on Route 164. We have, like I said, plastic wire and cable that's over at the UCFS, across from UCFS. People come to town. I know firsthand from when I ran last time, when we'd go out to restaurants in the morning, most of the diners downtown, a lot of the restaurants, the flea market are filled with people that have come from out of town. The hotel is filled with people that have come from out of town. They come to enjoy the rural environment. They come to enjoy Hopeville. They come to enjoy the Patchogue State Forest, and they do hiking. It is really important that when we're working with developers that come to town, that we ensure that they're going to maintain that kind of environment for our residents. For the data centers, one of the things that I was concerned about was there going to be a lot of noise from the generators? They discussed the fact that they have lots of procedures now that they can use to tamper down that sound. I've talked with people that are part of other data centers in Connecticut, and that was not an issue. And it's a clean business that can come to town and take up a small amount of space and bring a lot of good things into a town. I think we're looking for that kind of a thing. It depends on what kind of developers we have coming forth. I know we have a potential hotel coming forth. We have a potential restaurant coming forth. So I've spoken with a lot more developers the last few weeks. As we've gotten the infrastructure ready to go. And I think all of them are realizing the kind of community we have, that we've got people coming from the other side of the state to enjoy our outside environment. And that is important, that we need to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bennett. Mr. Malin, could you please respond to that question?
It's very important. There's a lot of nice areas for the park. I've spent a lot of time at Hopeful Pond Park with my kids when they were growing up. I don't want to disrupt any of that. I've got a lot of feedback from the people about the noise and how we're going to disrupt the traffic and the roads if we bring commercial business in. That's why we have to focus that, staying along the 395 corridor like our neighbors have. It minimizes that impact. It keeps a small town feel. Can't say enough with some of the park managements around the area and how they've kept the parks. And we got campers that come in. That's all I really got to say. It's a nice town. That's why I stayed here for 35 years. And that's why I raised our kids. And that's why I've got 2 grandkids. And I'm invested in keeping that kind of a small town feel here. But we have to get somewhere. We got to put some commercial business in here. The major companies to come in to help, like Plainfield's done, like Lisbon's done, and move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Malin. Ms. Bennett, did you want to give a 1-minute response?
I guess I would like to say again about economic development. One of the things that I think is important is to bring those people, I may have lost my train of thought. So thank you, though.
Oh, thank you. And Mr. Malin, any further notes?
Oh, I'm good.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Malin, you will respond first to the next question. According to Town Finance Director Eric Christensen, the town has approximately $1.3 million in American Recovery Act or ARPA federal funds remaining in its account. A portion of this money is earmarked for potential cost overruns to the planned project to extend water and sewer lines along from Route 201 to exit 24 of I-395 and also across the interstate toward the golf course. If money remains in this fund after those costs are covered, what do you envision doing with the surplus funds?
Well, I've driven all over the town here, and I would say we would have to invest some of that. And because I was at the latest Board of Selectmen meeting, there's some concern with the conditions of our roads. So I would probably look to put some of that money towards fixing those roads and make some of our residents happy. Other than that, um, I know we got a pretty good, healthy general fund there, as Dana knows. And the town and the school's actually been helping with that. With this field, I was told that they're projected to bring in $3 million in tuition alone. Not only that, we've had students coming back to the school, so we don't have to pay sending students out. So that saves the town money. So I think we've got a good start. I'll always go back to finishing the water sewers, as Dana said, but we also got to focus on bringing commercial business in, which will resolve a lot of these problems that we have. And also, we can work out our differences with the borough, share services better, minimize taxes for both parties, and move forward from there.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Malin. Ms. Bennett, would you please respond to the same question?
Thank you. I would say that with the ARPA funds at 1.3 million, that would cover about 1.5 miles of roads, possibly, depending on what the roads need. That is a possibility. I think the facades for our downtown businesses are also a possibility. We had talked about at one time the tourism. That was one of the things I had run on last time, and that fell to the wayside while I got the water and sewer and some of those other things, the groundwork laid. But I think that doing something like that would only enhance our town. Jewett City is the center of our town. It's 1 square mile out of the 37 square miles, but everybody drives through this area. I think a focus group of members of the town would be beneficial. We did that with the plan of conservation development that was written about 7 or 8 years ago. We've done that with the Main Street streetscape that was written in 2011. We should also go back to that streetscape and see what kinds of things that we had planned on doing as a town and as a borough to get things moving forward. I want to mention the $3 million tuition for the schools. I think that's fabulous. That brings in a lot of money. Our budget is about $40 million, and the schools have about $31 million of it. About $9 million is for all the town operations. So a lot of that $3 million that comes in for tuition goes back to the schools for teachers, for programs, for all of the wonderful things they do. I mean, the schools, I'm sure people know, have a lot of technology in the schools that doesn't do anything but help the students that graduate from Griswold Public Schools. And I think that that's important, and we're bringing a lot of people and a lot of students in because of that. So I guess what I would do with those ARPA funds, if we're not using them for water and sewer, is look at doing a focus group again. What do the residents want? And have those residents be from different parts of the town that can provide input and help us develop a plan. We don't have a lot of time. That money needs to be assigned by the end of 2023, I believe, and spent by 2024. So that would have to happen pretty quickly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bennett. Mr. Malin, would you like to take a minute to respond?
Yes, I think the roads are very important. And driving around some of these roads are in pretty bad shape. I understand that that fixing the buildings in the town, which is the borough, we probably have to get the borough involved in that decision. Also, I think, I'm just listening to what the people are telling me. Um, and I've talked to a lot of people, and some of these people are living in areas that have really bad roads, and I think we need to focus on that. We had, $500,000 or $750,000 to spend on that. That's what I would focus on.
Thank you, Mr. Malin. Ms. Bennett, do you want to take a minute to respond?
Yeah, I do agree that we have terrible roads out there. We've got a list of roads that are under the rating of 50. Our rating as a town for roads was about 67.5 last year when we had the road study first done. We've risen to about 68. One of the conflicts with doing the roads is we want to maintain the roads we have so we can maintain them to the point where they don't have to be repaved right away. But we have a lot of roads that haven't been paved for 25, 35 years. I think that's important, but it might be short-sighted. That's why I'd have a focus group, because it's only going to pave one of the roads maybe. And then all those other 10 roads that really need to be paved aren't going to be addressed. How do we promote economic development with that money? How do we move things forward?
All right, thank you very much. And Ms. Bennett, you will go first answering the next question. A large number of abandoned businesses, storefronts, and industrial sites detract from the town's beauty and negatively impact the quality of life for residents. What, if anything, do you hope to do to enforce or strengthen the town's existing blight ordinance?
That's a great question. We have a property on 164, the old Stotts property, where we had a restaurant, and it's been gone for 20 years, maybe 18 years. That has been handled by our blight officer. Our blight officer has gone out there, talked to the landowners, sent it to the attorney, and they are now in the process of taking down buildings that were housing animals. I know that when she went out there to take pictures at one point, she heard a large animal. We have no idea what the large animal was that was residing in one of the buildings, but it was time to take those down because they can become a health hazard for people. So she has been out doing a lot. She's probably visited about 32 houses and some businesses. People have been mostly very responsive to her, and she has worked with people to get things addressed. Sometimes it takes a long time for her to deal with some of the housing because it might belong to somebody that has been deceased. Things are just not taken care of because there's not family there, or family has come in and they're overwhelmed with trying to take care of it. We have to address that by potentially finding volunteers that can come out and help do some of the cleanup, some of the removal for people that are elderly, or for families that are all of a sudden owning a property that they didn't know needed to be taken care of. So we've reached out to the veterans. We don't have a lot of veterans that are able to help with this. She and I spoke a couple of weeks ago about United Way volunteers, if we could get United Way volunteers to go out there and help. As far as some of the abandoned businesses that are in decent shape that could be renovated for a business, I think some of that needs to be advertised better. I talked to the economic development chair about advertising on our website for the properties that we have on 164 and 201 that are ripe for development, as well as for some of the businesses we have open. Plainfield does advertising. Not that advertising is going to do everything, but when developers are looking at our town and looking at our website, one of the things they can see is what properties do we have open. There's a property open right next to Walgreens that somebody might want to move in that has a small business. The other thing that I'm working on as far as business, I'm in a coalition with 5 or 4 other selectmen from around the area, from Voluntown, Sterling, from Preston, and from North Stonington. This year we had a forum for farmers. We had an agricultural forum that was attended by 60 farmers from the area. And these 60 farmers were able to talk to USDA and other farm support agencies that would be able to help them with loans or grants or suggestions. What we're planning for in March of 2024, the 5 of us, is a small business or a home business forum Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Bennett, Mr. Malin, could you please address the same question?
So we have a lot of properties, been here a long time. So I've seen a lot of properties become, as Dana said, health hazards, safety hazards that need to be taken down, cleaned up. Glad we have somebody that's taking a look at that and taking action on it. And really don't have a lot to say about it, but it's a good program. It helps make the town look cleaner, better shape, and we're gonna keep that program going.
Thank you, Mr. Malin. Ms. Bennett, did you want to use your minute to respond?
No, thank you.
And Mr. Malin?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, we'll move on to the next question, and Mr. Malin will answer this one first. Voter participation has been historically low in town elections of the recent past. However, some states outside Connecticut have taken measures to roll back non-traditional voting methods such as mail-in voting or to otherwise restrict access to the polls. What do you believe can be done to reverse the trend of voter apathy in Griswold, and what is your stance on increasing voter participation and access?
Well, I think that's one of our greatest rights as an American to go out there and vote. It's the only chance you get to have any kind of influence on an election and who's going to be making the call for the next several years, whatever the term is. And I truly believe that if you're able to get up and go vote, you should go vote. What do I think we need to do? I guess what I've been doing, walking around, knocking on doors, getting people interested, seeing what they, make them feel part of the process. Getting them out there and trying to talk them into vote for the candidate that they want. That's about all I got to say about the subject.
Thank you, Mr. Malin. Ms. Bennett, please address that question.
Yes, thank you. I would say that voting is a right that I don't understand why Americans don't use it, because we don't have it in every country in the world. And it is something that is a way for people to speak out, whether that's voting in an election, a referendum, when we have a budget referendum, or when we have a referendum saying that we're going to build something in town, and having people come out to vote whether or not they want to do that. I think some of it has to do with communication. One of the things I've done to establish communication better in this town is we started the website that was actually put into place by the other administration, the previous administration. We have 2 Facebook pages, plus the youth center has Facebook page, the senior center has Facebook page. I've started Coffee on Main. Every quarter, I'm available in the building to speak with voters, to speak with residents. We started a newsletter that we haven't published again, but we have also started live streaming the Board of Selectmen meetings, the Board of Finance meetings. The system is set up for other meetings that would like to live stream, so communication gets out there. I think that what happens with a lot of people is this is a commuter town. People go to work and they don't get home till late, so it's very hard for them to get to the polls. It's hard for them to be on boards and commissions. There's a lot of people that have input that want to be involved, but it's difficult for them to be involved because of that. So we need to open up voting. The early voting will certainly have an impact. That will probably start in 2024. People will be able to vote early in town hall. I don't know how many days it will be at this point, if it's 10 days, if it's 14 days, but people have the option of being able to go in and vote when town hall is open, instead of just on the one day when somebody may have to work and may have a meeting, or their child may have some kind of a production at school or a test or something, or a sick child at home. We have to make it easier for voters. But I also do think voters have a choice, and not everybody is choosing to vote right now, and maybe they don't have the information they need, but we have communication systems that we're trying to set up. The next thing that will be coming is a text messaging system that the town can opt into. That's a pretty sophisticated system, so people can get information about meetings. They can get information about weather-related issues. They can get information about roads or town or road closures, or they can get information about voting. There's a wide range of things that people will be able to opt into. I think that communication system will help people remember that there's an election or a referendum and get out to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. Mr. Malin, did you wish to use your minute to respond? And Ms. Bennett?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right, and our last question is being posed first to Ms. Bennett. How much confidence do you have in the electoral process and honoring the decision of the voters? Are you prepared to accept election results even if they do not favor you?
I think that our electoral process is excellent. I think we've got people that are invested in the process, that work hard to get the election set up. There are people that work long hours on the days of elections. People come to work at 5 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes they don't go home till 10 o'clock at night. The tabulators, the machines that they use for the voting, are tested prior to any election or any referendum. If there's an error, they send the cards from that machine back to Hartford or wherever they go to for correction. So I think that there are enough people that are aware of wanting to have elections that are fair, elections that are operating to the best interest of all the voters. And we have a lot of people that work hard to make sure that happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. Mr. Malin, could you please respond to that question?
I believe the electoral process is safe. I admire the volunteers that support it and the register of voters that support it. Everything is on the up and up. I think if I win or lose the primary, it'll be done honestly. I don't have any problems with the way we use the process. It's solid, and all I got to say about it.
Thank you very much. Ms. Bennett, did you wish to respond?
No, thank you.
And Mr. Malin?
Nope.
So that's the last question. And next we have closing statements, and Mr. Malin will go first. You have 3 minutes to give.
3 minutes. Okay, thank you. Okay, from what I see, everything circles back to economic development for this town. I want to see parts of Griswold grow, increase tax revenue, to get projects done, offset tax increases while still maintaining the quiet, small town feel of Griswold. Martin and I want to bring Griswold back together, and we've met with almost 200 households so far. I've heard the residents, what they want, what they're concerned about, and we'll be planning and creating goals based on that feedback. We will be meeting more residents in the coming weeks. I encourage all residents and business owners to reach out to me at malinforfirstselectman@gmail.com to ask questions and submit feedback, and follow and message us on Facebook at Wayne Malin for First Selectman. I invite everyone to come down to Charlene's this Saturday at 11 a.m. for a meet and greet. Be glad to talk to anybody with any questions, get to know me better. I'd like to thank the residents for welcoming me as I've walked around Griswold introducing myself. They have given me a lot of feedback and things that they'd like to see in this town. I'd also like to thank Mike and Janice for coming together and planning streaming this discussion. I'm also appreciative of the overwhelming support that I've received from both sides of the aisle. And finally, I'd like to once again thank my fellow Republicans for your support and endorsement for your vote on September 12th.
Thank you, Mr. Malin. Ms. Bennett, could you please give your closing statement?
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody that's here tonight. I'd like to thank all of you that listened or may listen in the future. I'd like to say that I love this job. I love being the first selectman. It's a hard job, and I like going to work every day. I'm asking the voters to go to the polls so that I can be on the ballot in November, and to please vote for my running mate, Valerie Grills, also. Valerie brings the history. I bring the experience with the town. The Griswold voters put me into office because they wanted someone to be transparent about where the money goes, to watch their tax dollars. We have to make the best decisions for road management, economic development, and all the progress we want to make as a town. And I include the borough in this. The borough is part of this town also. I ask you to get out and vote on September 12th. Absentee ballots are available from the town clerk if you will be away. I want people to know I understand the tax burden that people have. When I was a young mom and my son was a baby, I had to work long, hard hours doing cleaning toilets basically in group homes. And that's where I started. That was a while ago. And now I have used all the skills and education I have to work as your first selectman. But I understand where people are coming from and how they can't pay their bills and how they can't pay their taxes and why economic development is so important. The decisions I've had to make in this position are not always easy. There was a time when I received a resignation from my opponent's running mate, and he was resigning from something that I thought he was a valuable member of, and I chose to keep him as a member and not accept that resignation while he was away for a while. People are an asset to this town, and sometimes that person was not making all the decisions that I liked necessarily, but he has a lot of knowledge, he has a lot of history, and he's a valuable person on that commission. I've had to make hard decisions regarding the field committee, which is fabulous. There's going to be a grand opening for that on September 8th. I know the kids have already enjoyed it. The schools have already enjoyed it. I have to say, I was not a part of any of that design. There was an ad hoc committee that designed that. I had no involvement. I'm only involved as the fiduciary person. Steve Cravino, Glenn Laboisiere, all these people that are the sports people in the school are the ones that really are running things and watching and making sure that the field they designed and the ad hoc committee designed is coming out correctly. But yes, sometimes I've had to make decisions with the school. We have an audit that is concerning to me. We don't have our audit done that was due in December 2022. It's an ongoing issue. It's almost December again. We have 4 months and we have our next audit due. I think it's a conflict of interest for somebody to run for first selectman that is married to the chair of the Board of Education. I'm just going to say it. That's a hard decision. It's hard, something hard to say. But thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bennett. And many thanks again to both of our candidates, Republican candidates for the office of first selectman, both the Republican nominated candidate, the endorsed candidate, Wayne Malin, and our sitting incumbent first selectman, Ms. Dana Bennett. Just a few nuts and bolts about the upcoming primary. The Republican primary for Griswold first selectman will take place Tuesday, September 12th. Please note that both districts will vote at Griswold Town Hall on Main Street in Jewett City. There will be a single polling place. Polls will be open from 6 a.m. through 8 p.m. Curbside voting will be available during these hours. Absentee ballot applications can be obtained at the town clerk's office during regular hours, which are Monday through Wednesday from 8:30 a.m. through 4 p.m., Thursday from 8:30 a.m. through 6:30 p.m., and Friday from 8:30 a.m. through 1 p.m. An ID is required to receive an absentee ballot. You can also apply for an absentee ballot online at www.griswold-ct.org. Completed absentee ballots can be dropped off at Town Hall in the designated secure ballot drop box outside the front door. Voters can register to vote online at voterregistration.ct.gov/ capital all caps OLVR. Only registered Republicans can vote in this primary election. Unaffiliated voters may still register as Republicans prior to the primary and be eligible to vote, but not on the day of the election. However, those currently registered as Democrats or independents may not register as Republicans, as such a change of party membership requires 90 days. The general election for town officials, including first selectmen, in which voters will choose between Republican and Democratic candidates for first selectman, will take place on Tuesday, November 7th. All registered voters in Griswold of any party or of no affiliation may cast a ballot in the general election. Once again, we thank our guests, Mr. Wayne Malin and Ms. Dana Bennett, for their willingness to come and speak to the issues that concern the members of the town of Griswold. Thank you all for listening, and please get out and vote if you are eligible to do so in the Republican primary on Tuesday, September 12th. Good evening.